The Sunday evening air in the Cole mansion felt colder than the marble beneath Daniel's shoes. A long glass table split the living room like a river of light. Mr. Cole stood at the head of it, shoulders square, chin lifted. Beside him, Mrs. Cole rested 2 fingers on the arm of the chair as if even furniture obeyed her. A sealed cream envelope lay in the center, the Cole crest pressed into its wax like a promise, or a warning. Inside this, Mr. Cole said, tapping the envelope, is the formal division of the estate and transition of the company. Your name is on it. Your responsibility is on it. But there is a condition. Daniel glanced at Elena. Her brown eyes met his, soft, steady, frightened. She squeezed his hand under the table. Dad, Daniel said carefully. What condition? Mrs. Cole answered, voice smooth. We asked you not to marry her. You did. You want to be forgiven? Choose the family. Divorce her. Elena's breath hitched. Mrs. Cole. Mother, Daniel warned, pulse pounding. Mr. Cole lifted a hand. You have a week. If you choose Elena, Ryan takes the helm. If you choose the family, everything proceeds as planned. He pushed the envelope forward. We will not repeat ourselves. Daniel stared at the wax seal, trying to breathe through the sudden tightness in his chest. 10 years in the logistics company. 10 years hearing his father say, someday it will be yours if you honor the name. 10 years believing loyalty was the currency of the Cole empire. He had honored the name. He just hadn't honored their demand to marry a woman they had chosen. We're done here, Mrs. Cole said, rising. Think wisely, Daniel. As his parents left, Ryan lingered in the doorway, smirking. The look said everything. Welcome to the cliff's edge. When they were alone, Elena whispered, I'm sorry. I never wanted to cost you your family. Daniel swallowed, throat raw. You didn't. They're making a choice. And now I have to make mine. The envelope glowed under the chandelier, bright as a trap. Their house felt too big that night. The laughter they used to fill it with had been replaced by the hum of the refrigerator and a clock that clicked like a patient judge. Elena stood at the sink, staring into the dark window. Her reflection looked thinner than she remembered, eyebrows drawn together, mouth trying to hold steady. I knew they didn't like me, she said finally, not turning around. I didn't know they hated me. Daniel leaned against the doorway, hands in his pockets, a whiskey glass untouched on the counter. It's not hate, he said, but the words sounded false even to him. It's control. They can't stand what they don't own. Which is me, Elena said, turning. Tears glimmered, but her voice stayed even. And you. They don't own us. He crossed the kitchen and touched her cheek. I married you because I love you. Because you are the only part of my life that doesn't feel like an assignment. A weak smile tugged at her mouth. Assignments come with deadlines. Your father gave us one. He exhaled a laugh that wasn't a laugh at all and looked down at the ring on her finger. I never thought love would put me in a war with my own blood. Love didn't, she said softly. Power did. They ate reheated pasta at the kitchen island, saying little, hearing everything. Afterward, Daniel lifted the envelope from his bag and set it on the counter between them. Neither touched it. What if, Elena asked, staring at the crest, you told them no? What if you walked away? And do what? Watch Ryan burn the company my grandfather built. He shook his head. I know this business down to the axle count. The employees trust me. Walking away means abandoning all of that. And staying means abandoning us. She said it gently, but it landed like a hammer. He closed his eyes. In the dark behind his eyelids, he saw the warehouse floors he grew up on, the smell of diesel and rain, his grandfather's hand on his shoulder. Hold the line. He opened his eyes and looked at Elena. I don't want to lose you. Then don't, she whispered. The clock clicked on. Neither of them moved the envelope. It watched them all night. Morning brought coffee and a text. Out front. Daniel stepped outside to find Ryan leaning against a black SUV, sunglasses on though the sun struggled through clouds. You took your time, Ryan said. I was sleeping, Daniel replied. Some of us still work. Ryan laughed. For now. He slid the sunglasses up. Let's stop pretending this is a moral puzzle. It's a business decision. Dad finally did you a favor. You get to choose your world. My world is not paperwork, Daniel said. It's people. Drivers. Dispatchers. Customers whose livelihoods depend on us not missing a shipment. Spare me the speech, Ryan said. You choose Elena, you're out. You choose the family, you get everything you ever wanted. Or thought you wanted. He stepped closer. They already rewrote the will. Your name is penciled, not inked. I'm the fallback who just became the front runner. You've always wanted it, Daniel said, jaw tightening. Wanting is not a sin in this family, Ryan said lightly. Weakness is. He clapped Daniel on the shoulder. Do the strong thing, little brother. Daniel held his gaze. The strong thing, he said, might be choosing the person I would bleed for. Ryan's smile thinned. Romantic. But romance doesn't pay salaries. Or debts. He slid back into the SUV. You have 6 days. Don't disappoint me by trying to have both. The SUV rolled away, leaving Daniel in the cold morning with a taste of metal in his mouth and an old memory rising. His grandfather telling him at 12 years old, someday you'll learn the difference between a man who owns things and a man who belongs to them. He hadn't understood then. He did now. By midweek, the envelope felt like a third person in their home. Elena avoided it with deliberate turns. Daniel moved it from counter to desk to nightstand like it might finally stop whispering if he changed its view. They snapped at small things and apologized too quickly. The week had carved grooves into their patience. Look at me, Elena said that evening, standing in the doorway of their bedroom. Daniel was seated on the edge of the bed, shoulders hunched, the envelope beside him like an armrest. He raised his eyes. I am not a test, she said. I am your wife. I vowed to walk with you when we had much and when we had little. I meant it. But I won't compete with a legacy for your attention. He rubbed his forehead. It isn't attention, Elle. It's everything I've built toward. It's the company, the people. It's your father's voice in your head, she said gently, telling you that you are only as good as the empire you preserve. He stood and crossed the room. Tell me what to do. She breathed in, then out. Choose us. If it costs us comfort, we will rebuild. If it costs us reputation, we will earn a new one. If it costs us your family, we will grieve, but we will not break. Choose us, and I will spend my life proving that your choice was the right one. What if I choose them? He asked, voice small. Elena's eyes hurt. Then I pack a bag. I will not live in a marriage where I am a tolerated mistake. He flinched like she'd struck him. She caught his face in her hands. I love you, she said, the words trembling. But I love me too. Don't ask me to disappear so you can inherit. He closed his eyes and leaned into her palms. I don't want you to disappear. I want a world where you and the company exist without war. She smiled sadly. That world doesn't exist in your father's house. The envelope waited on the bed. The wax seal gleamed like a thin, perfect scar. The invitation arrived with the weight of a verdict. Family dinner. Friday. 7 p.m. Formal. Elena ironed the one black dress she owned that felt unarguable. Daniel knotted a sober tie and rehearsed lines he knew he wouldn't use. The mansion pulsed with a silent orchestra of staff. Guests in weathered suits and polished pearls collected near the bar, speaking in careful, important voices about supply chains and fuel futures. When Daniel and Elena entered, conversations dipped, then resumed in polite hums. Mrs. Cole floated toward them, smile clipped. "Elena," she said, eyes gliding over the dress. "Thank you for making the effort." "Thank you for having us," Elena said, steady. They sat at a long table laid like a stage. Mr. Cole stood, lifting a crystal glass. "Tonight," he said, voice filling the room, "we break bread, we remember where we come from, and we secure where we are going." Daniel felt Elena's hand find his thigh under the table. He covered it. "As you all know," Mr. Cole continued, "the time has come to transition leadership with clarity. My son Daniel has been offered the future of this company and this family." He let the sentence hang, then turned to Daniel. "But leadership requires alignment. Daniel, have you decided whether to put the Cole family first?" Eyes swung to him like searchlights. Ryan leaned back, smirk barely hidden. Elena's breath fluttered against his wrist. He stood. The room tilted. He thought of trucks at dawn, of drivers laughing around thermoses, of Elena's hands holding his face, of his grandfather's rough palm on his shoulder. The speech he'd prepared withered in his mouth. "I have," he said, voice low. "I choose my wife." A glass clinked far down the table. Someone choked. Mr. Cole's face emptied of color. Mrs. Cole's lips pressed white. "Daniel," she said, not quite a whisper. He reached for Elena's hand and helped her up. "We're leaving," he said to the room, to the dynasty, to the heavy portraits nodding in disapproval from the walls. "If you walk out now," Mr. Cole thundered, "you walk out of my will forever." Daniel paused, heart breaking and mending in the same beat. "Then I will learn to live without it." They walked through the murmurs and the polished hall and into the rain. Outside, the water fell hard and cold. Elena laughed through a sob as they ran to the car. He opened her door, soaked to the bone, and said the truest thing he had ever said. "I chose you." They didn't talk much on the drive home. The storm smudged the city into lights and shadow. Elena held her phone in her lap like a sleeping bird. Daniel gripped the wheel as if it could answer him. When they reached their house, his key didn't work. "What?" Elena whispered. He tried again. The lock refused. A note had been taped to the door. "Vacate immediately. Ownership transferred." Daniel's name did not appear anywhere on the deed. His father's family trust did. He felt a laugh rise and break like surf inside him. "Okay," he said, voice calm. "Okay." They took only what they could carry: clothes, a box of wedding photos, a cheap coffee maker that fit into the trunk at an angle. On the driveway, rain hammered. Across the street, a neighbor watched through blinds, kindness and curiosity at war on her face. At midnight, they checked into a motel near the freeway. The room smelled faintly of bleach and old fries. Elena placed the wedding photos on the small round table like they were a lamp. Daniel sat on the bed and stared at his hands. They were shaking. "I'm sorry," Elena said, sitting beside him. "I didn't know choosing me would cost you your home." "You didn't cost me anything," he said, resting his forehead against hers. "They did." The thunder moved farther away. The silence here was different, thin, hopeful, new. Elena ran her fingers through his hair. "Tomorrow," she said, "we find an apartment. We find jobs. We call your bank." He laughed. "We discover my accounts are frozen." "We thaw them," she said, smiling. "And if we can't, we figure it out." He kissed her knuckles, one by one, like vows spoken again. "We figure it out." In the morning, they would. For now, they lay down in a bed that wasn't theirs and held each other while the rain cleaned the city. They found a small apartment above a laundromat downtown. The ceiling creaked when buses passed. Their bedroom window looked onto a brick wall that bloomed with ivy when the light hit right. Rent ate most of Elena's paycheck from the clinic. Daniel's accounts, as predicted, were flagged with security review and temporary holds that would stretch until never. He visited lenders, old contacts, former clients who had once shaken his hand like a promise. Some took his calls. Some didn't. A few invited him to coffee to tell him kindly that Mr. Cole had already reached out, advising caution. At night he came home with shoulders knotted, the smell of diesel phantom on his clothes. Elena met him with rice and beans, with jokes that scratched laughter out of him, with hands that kneaded the ache from his back. "You're not a failure," she told him every time his eyes went far away. "You're building from the ground. Ground is honest." He began driving for a small freight yard at the edge of the city, working nights, learning routes he hadn't had to drive in years. He remembered that he loved the road, the way sunrise turned trailers into long silver fish, the way rest stops held small kingdoms of people passing through. He made friends with two drivers, Luis and Tamika, who told him the real news of the industry over vending machine coffee. "You're not the first son to get thrown to the curb," Tamika said, shrugging. "Dynasties eat their own. You gonna build your own fleet, or what?" He looked down at his hands. "I'm trying." "Try harder," she said, grinning. On Sundays, he and Elena took long walks with cheap ice cream, counting dogs and naming them ridiculous dignified names. Baron, Miss Chancellor, the Third. They laughed. They worried. They dreamed out loud in simple sentences. "Someday," Elena said, "you'll sign your own paychecks." "Someday," he said, "we'll pay for dinners with cash and not count." "Someday," she said, and he repeated it back until someday felt like a place they could drive to if they kept the tank full. The first investor smiled a lot and said all the right things. "We like your grit," she said, shaking Daniel's hand. "We like your plan to focus on reliable regional lanes before scaling." She promised a follow-up call. It came, then it didn't. 2 more meetings felt promising. Both evaporated hours after Ryan's assistant just happened to email Daniel to confirm his personal address for correspondence. Finally, a text arrived from an old family friend who owed Daniel nothing but decency. "I'm sorry. Ryan says your relationships are radioactive. You're a lawsuit looking for a place to happen." Daniel sat in his parked car outside the warehouse and stared at the text. It felt like someone had lifted his chest and dropped it back in the wrong place. He drove home fast, then slower, then not at all. He pulled over and let himself be angry in the safe anonymity of his car. When he walked through the apartment door, Elena didn't ask. She set a bowl of stew on the table and wrapped her arms around him from behind. "He's calling investors," Daniel said, voice flat. "He's telling them I'm a risk." "He's scared," she said. "Of me?" "I'm living above a washing machine." "Of losing the only thing he thinks makes him important," Elena said. "Which is the empire you could rebuild better than him." Daniel rubbed his face. "Every time I think I've found a foothold, he knocks the rock loose." Elena stepped in front of him and cupped his jaw. "Then we find a foothold he can't see." "How?" "People," she said. "Not investors. People. Drivers who trust you. Small clients who need reliability more than prestige. We build a network, not a narrative." He blinked. It sounded small. It sounded slow. It sounded possible. "Okay," he said. "Okay." That weekend he called Tamika and Luis and 3 more drivers they trusted. He rented a small warehouse with month-to-month terms. He drew routes on a whiteboard and posted his phone number in places investors never looked. He slept 4 hours a night and woke up wanting to do it again. Ryan kept calling investors. Daniel stopped calling investors at all. The first week brought 2 tiny contracts, a bakery chain that needed pre-dawn flower runs and a party rental company with fragile schedules and inflatable castles. Daniel treated both like gold. He drove 2 runs himself, then 4, then 6, until Tamika swore at him and said, "Bosses can't pass out on the freeway." He hired 2 more drivers. He learned that the bakery manager, Rhea, had a daughter who loved algebra and hated mornings. He learned that the party rental dispatcher, Dee, was saving to take her mother to the ocean. He learned that when you looked people in the eye and did what you said, they added routes without asking for a discount. Elena came to the warehouse on Fridays with thermoses and clipboards. She made checklists so clean even Daniel's weary brain could skate across them. "You're good at this," he told her, watching her smile at a driver's joke and then, in the same breath, catch a scheduling error. "I like watching things move in the right direction," she said, cheeks flushed. "And you in a safety vest is strangely attractive." They laughed. They were tired, but their tiredness came from work that didn't insult them. Sometimes, driving across state lines at 3 a.m., Daniel felt something like joy. He would call Elena on speaker and describe the sky. She would tell him about an elderly patient who'd started walking again and a toddler who'd thrown oatmeal like confetti. Life didn't feel small. It felt concentrated. One afternoon, the bakery chain doubled its order. "You deliver like clockwork," Rhea said, waving a hand. "I can set my ovens by you." Daniel hung up and leaned against the warehouse door, eyes closed. He let himself smile the wide, private smile of a man who had lost everything and found himself. A week later, a voice message waited on Daniel's phone, an old, careful voice, the kind that pronounced every syllable like it mattered. "Mr. Daniel Cole, this is Marshall Denton, your grandfather's attorney. I have something for you that your grandfather instructed me to keep safe until, in his words, the boy remembers who he is. If you have time to stop by, I will be in my office all afternoon." Daniel almost didn't go. It felt like a trap. But Marshall Denton had been loyal to his grandfather in a way that even Mr. Cole had respected. He texted Elena, "Going to see Denton. Will call." She replied with a heart and a caution, "Trust your gut, not theirs." Denton's office smelled like paper and lemon polish. The lawyer was smaller than Daniel remembered, but his eyes were still precise. He handed Daniel a thin envelope, the same crest, different era. Daniel's hands trembled. "I never read it," Denton said. "He told me not to. Only that you would need it when you'd chosen something he never could." Daniel opened the letter. His grandfather's handwriting marched across the page, blunt and clear. "Danny, if you're reading this, you've already made a hard choice. I built an empire and forgot too often that empires are poor fathers. Your father learned my strength and my blindness. I hoped you would learn my regrets, too. The true inheritance is not the empire. It is the courage to walk away and still stand tall. If you ever have to choose love over wealth, choose love. If you do, wealth may find you again. If it doesn't, you will still have the only treasure that survives a storm, a clear heart and clean hands. If you need cash to start, Denton has a key. Not to the company. To a safety deposit box I filled with what I kept back from pride. Modest, but honest. Use it only to build something that doesn't require you to bend your neck. Hold the line. Granddad." Daniel read it twice, then a third time, eyes stinging. Denton slid a key across the desk, old metal winking. "He put aside what he called humble funds for a humble future," Denton said. "Nothing like the company. Enough to start or to land." Daniel laughed through tears. He always did love a good riddle. He called Elena from the car. "He believed in us," he said. "He left a key." "Come home," she said, voice thick with joy. "We'll build something worthy of him. Money helps, but it doesn't fix rot." While Daniel added 2 trucks and a dispatcher with his grandfather's humble funds, Ryan expanded like a man trying to outrun his reflection. He bought routes he didn't understand, underbid contracts to win headlines, and stretched drivers thin. Within months, delays stacked like pallets. A high-profile client took their business to a national competitor. Fuel costs spiked. A safety incident made the news. Daniel heard about it from Tamika, who read everything and missed nothing. "Your brother is burning hot," she said. "Hot burns out." Mr. Cole's call came at dusk. Daniel stared at the screen and let it ring once, twice, 3 times before he answered. "Hello." Silence, then a voice stripped of armor. "Son." Daniel leaned against the warehouse door. "Dad, we need to talk." Mr. Cole paused. "I should have never frozen your accounts. That was punitive." "It was," Daniel said. He kept his voice even. "Why are you calling?" Another silence. "Ryan's losing control. He doesn't listen. We're bleeding." The confession sounded like a tooth being pulled. Daniel closed his eyes. He could see it, the chaos, the fear. He also saw Elena at their kitchen table, sorting invoices with a pencil behind her ear, and the bakery's early morning docklight, and Tamika's grin. He saw a life that didn't require begging for permission to breathe. "Come back," Mr. Cole said suddenly. "Take the helm. Save what your grandfather built." "On what terms?" Daniel asked quietly. "Whatever terms you want," his father said, and Daniel imagined the man in the big office gripping his desk like a cliff. "Let me think," Daniel said. He hung up and walked into the warehouse. Elena looked up from the desk. He told her everything. She listened, face calm, eyes searching his. "You don't need them," she said, "but maybe the people inside that company need you." She touched his hand. "If you go, go as yourself. Not as their son. As Daniel. With conditions written in ink." "What if he breaks them?" Daniel asked. "Then you walk," she said. Again. He breathed out. He knew the conditions now. He knew his line. He returned to the mansion not as a son coming home, but as a man with good boots and a better backbone. The foyer looked the same, an expensive echo, a chandelier like a frozen storm. Mr. and Mrs. Cole waited in the study. Ryan paced near the window, face tight. "Daniel," Mrs. Cole said, but this time his name felt like a request, not a reprimand. "I'll help," he said before anyone could speak, "under conditions that are not negotiable." Mr. Cole's jaw flexed. "State them." "1," Daniel said, counting on his fingers. "Elena is respected. Publicly. Privately. Non-negotiable. 2. I will not dismantle the company I've built. I will run a separate division with independent books and my own team. 3. No freezing accounts. No retaliation. Any attempt to sabotage my work or marriage ends our arrangement immediately. 4. We pay drivers well and on time. We stop pretending people are line items." Ryan scoffed. "You can't walk in here and—" Mr. Cole raised a hand without looking at him. His eyes stayed on Daniel. "Agreed," he said after a long beat. "To all of it." "Dad." Ryan's voice was bright with disbelief. "Be quiet," Mr. Cole snapped, and some old fear in Ryan obeyed. Mrs. Cole stood, stepped forward, and did something Daniel had not seen her do since he was small. She reached for him. "I was wrong," she said, the words fragile. "Elena is your wife. If she will forgive me, I will ask it." He nodded once. "You can ask her." Elena stepped into the doorway then, as if cued by an invisible stage manager. She had insisted on coming and sitting in the hall. Now she entered, shoulders back, face calm. Mrs. Cole turned to her. "I was cruel," she said. "I confused protection with control. I am asking your forgiveness." Elena's eyes softened. "I'll accept your apology if it comes with changed behavior," she said kindly. "We can start there." Mr. Cole cleared his throat, uncomfortable with feelings. "Can we talk operations?" Daniel smiled without humor. "Now we can. Repairing a broken company is less like surgery and more like hauling a jackknifed truck out of a ditch in the rain. It takes rope and patience and yelling and a willingness to get filthy. Daniel brought in his people. Tamika as operations chief for the new division, Luis heading dispatch, Elena as director of people and process. Some executives blinked, offended. Others looked relieved. He met with drivers first. In a crowded break room that smelled like coffee and old donuts, he stood on a plastic chair and spoke plain. I'm not here to squeeze you. I'm here to build routes you can run without breaking your bodies. I want you home for dinners more nights than not. A ripple of laughter moved through the room like heat. Relief is a language. Contracts were renegotiated with brutal honesty. Some clients left, better ones arrived. Pay was standardized. Safety protocols stopped being slogans. When a dispatcher snapped at a driver on the radio, Elena sat with them both and asked for the story behind impatience. People felt seen. Missed loads turned into hit loads. The numbers slowly started to behave. Ryan tried to play power games in the boardroom. Daniel didn't play. When Ryan undermined a decision publicly, Daniel paused the meeting and said, "This stops now. If you want to argue, do it with facts and in the right forum." The board noticed. Ryan scowled and stopped showing up as often. 2 months later, he asked for a sabbatical. No one begged him to stay. Mr. Cole walked the floor, sometimes like a ghost haunting a house he'd built and lost. One afternoon, he stopped beside Daniel in the warehouse. "Your grandfather would be proud," he said, voice frail with humility. "I hope so," Daniel said. He wanted to add, "and so would I," but he didn't need to. He already was. At home, Elena and Daniel ate dinners at their small table above the laundromat, laughing about the day like regular people. When the lease ended, they stayed. "Let's not forget this view," Elena said, gesturing at the ivy and the slice of sky. "It made us honest." "Then we keep it," he said. They did. A year later, the company gathered in a refurbished hangar with windows like generous eyes. Employees brought spouses and kids. A taco truck hummed outside. Music skittered pleasantly under the chatter. On a temporary stage, Daniel stood beside Elena, her hand warm in his. Mr. and Mrs. Cole sat in the front row, smaller than their reputation now, kinder, too. Daniel cleared his throat. "When I was a kid," he said, "I thought inheritance was something you got when someone died. Money. Property. A big name." He smiled. "Turns out, inheritance can be a choice you make while everyone is still alive." People leaned in. He saw Tamika near the back, arms folded, grinning. He saw Luis holding his toddler. He saw Rhea from the bakery waving with flour on her sleeve because she had rushed over without changing. "I was asked to choose between my wife and a fortune," he continued. "I chose my wife." He glanced at Elena. "Best decision I ever made. I lost a house, a bank account, some comfort. I gained a life I can be proud of. And funny thing, when you stop bending yourself to money, money sometimes comes back laughing and says, 'Fine, I'll play by your rules.'" Laughter warmed the room. "We run trucks," he said. "We move boxes. It's not glamorous, but it is honest. And we do it together. So our inheritance, the one we're building right now, isn't just balance sheets. It's how we treat each other. It's paychecks that arrive on time. It's kids who see their parents less exhausted. It's a company where love isn't a liability." He reached for Elena's hand. She squeezed back, eyes bright. "Love," he said, "is the only inheritance that survives a storm. Wealth without love is poverty." He let the words settle. "Thank you for building this with me." Applause rose like a wave. Mr. and Mrs. Cole stood and clapped. Mrs. Cole wiped her eyes. Mr. Cole looked at Elena and mouthed, "Thank you." She nodded, accepting what apology could be offered in public. After the speeches, people ate tacos and talked about softball leagues and fuel prices and summer plans. The hangar door was open. Evening light poured in like a promise that didn't need sealing wax to hold. Later, when the crew had gone and the music had faded, Daniel and Elena walked the length of the empty hangar, their footsteps echoing. "Do you ever miss it?" Elena asked softly. "The easy version? The one where you said yes to their demand?" Daniel thought about it. "Sometimes I miss the illusion of safety," he said. "But then I remember that safety would have cost me you. And me." He looked around at the clean floor, the tidy stacks, the simple beauty of things in their place. "I don't miss cages, even if they're gold." Elena smiled up at him. "Good. Because I threw away the key." He laughed, low and full. Outside, trucks rolled by on the highway like distant thunder. The world moved. Their world moved with it, by their own choosing, powered by love, guided by a letter from a man who had learned too late what mattered most. Daniel squeezed Elena's hand and felt the plain, perfect truth of his life. He had chosen correctly, and every mile ahead would prove it again.